you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as the doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support.
What I think is happening here is God using Donald Trump to hasten the coming of the Lord. This is really what is happening here. And we need to be stay tuned, because he's lining up with Israel right now.
In the past, I often enough said that I have what's called the preeminence of Christ, which basically means that I am the first, or in the context of what we are discussing here, that I am at the prime pole position to fit the coming of the Messiah. And there are two reasons why I think this actually might be true. One, we have Benjamin Netanyahu, and as you know, in his circles, Shabbat Lubavitch and Judaism, he is considered as being the one that hastens the coming of the Messiah.
אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש להשתדל גם היום, בבשורות טובות. זה שמחה וטוב לבוא. כדי שחסידים מקפידים שכל ימנים יהיו שמחה. בשורות טובות, הצלחה רבה.
And did you know that I was directly knocking at the doors of the Rothschilds, in the spirit if you will, in 2017, when I went to Frankfurt in order to live what I believed to be my identity, which is Jewish or a Jew, or clinging on to the God of the Bible, the God of the Old Testament. Now, why is that important? Because I remember back then that I embraced Benjamin Netanyahu in the spirit, and I had what's called compassion and even love. Back then he was not necessarily popular with the world, or people in general did not necessarily know him as they know him now. And back then it basically meant that I went and I subscribed onto his YouTube channel, which was back then Israeli Prime Minister or Israeli PM. Because I truly believed that I wanted to be part of his nation. So this was happening approximately 2017, 2018. And even though he was not yet, back then, according to my eye, so he was not yet known or well known in the world, and he did not really set yet a mark upon this world, in the year 2017 it is, he became then, successively, as we know, one of the most important figures in these recent years, namely since the testimony of Yahweh Shai started, which was 2019. Because in 2019, that's when I think that the battle began, where the testimony of Yahweh Shai was being attacked by the alphabet agency Google that monitored and observed the cyberspace / the social media, and that then likely reported back onto entities like the Illuminati, or the ones that basically truly rule and run or control our reality, like the Bilderbergs, which is kind of like an acronym for people that the elites. And you may remember that YouTube back then began to purge all kinds of content from YouTube, the YouTube database. That's happened in the year 2019, 2018, 2019. They cracked down basically upon a lot of content, which is why I think this is kind of like a starting point. Because in the future I would like to reference the war that is currently happening upon this earth, the war against the Lamb. And the Lamb, as we know, is in reference onto Yahweh Shai, the Messiah. So in a sense you can say that the reason why I'm currently not, and why I was being imprisoned, and why all that great evil happens in this world is because these 10 horns, they pretty much fight against whom? Yeah, we know, against Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And as such, I believe that I am in his foot, or in his kind of like in his body, if you will, in the mind of Yahweh Shai. At least I am bearing witness as such. So he became an acquaintance, which is Benjamin Netanyahu back then in the spirit. or someone that I hold or held closely in my mind, like I said. He then became exactly this, namely important. And importance is exactly what pertains unto the preeminence of Yahweh Shai or Hamashiach. Because Yahweh Shai, Christ, he is important. The first, and also considered to be the last. And why this then pertains to my preeminence, you might ask? Because everything I see and perceived so far holds weight, as if mine own existence is directly tied to this reality. It's like as if I chose him to be where he is today, or as if he was given to me and thereby chosen to be special and in front of those things that truly matter. So Benjamin Netanyahu is not just an average dude, an average guy. And like I said, he is close unto mine own self, at least the identity that I bear, the mind. And I guess you can also say the mind mapping. And this is one of the reasons why I said at the beginning of my paragraph, let me go back, what did it that I said? I said in the past, I often enough say that I have what's called the preeminence of Christ, which basically means that I am the first, or in the context of what we are discussing here, namely that Donald Trump is presenting himself as Christ, that I am at the prime pole position to fit the coming of the Messiah. So if people basically look out and they say, there's the Messiah and he is there and Benjamin Netanyahu is bringing in the Messiah, then they are all kind of like right, correct. And they all kind of like reference myself or kind of like are a representation of what goes on in my mind and what I see on a daily basis. So, again, why is this pertaining then to my preeminence when I reference Benjamin Netanyahu here? Because everything I see and perceive so far, it holds weight, as if mine own existence is directly tied to this reality. It's like as if I chose him to be where he is today, or as if he was given to me and thereby chosen to be special and in front of those things that truly matter. And now here comes the second reason why I believe what I believe. And the second reason for why I think that I am at the prime pole position to fit the coming of the Messiah is because I was there in the year 2012, namely the time section when the world truly started to shift. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then please check what the Mayans predicted would happen. And to make it short, they basically predicted that the world as we know it would end, and a new cycle, a new eon would begin. And accordingly to Christian eschatology, this means that a new age is coming, an age in which Christ, Hamashiach, will reign. So all I'm saying basically is that I was there when the shift took place, and I have a very special perception, one that directly influences this reality, if you will. One that puts me always in the middle of everything, or as I said, in those things that truly matter. These days, almost everybody is talking about Jesus Christ, and how he is this, and how he is that. And so also Donald Trump.
Yeah, we need help. It's all right to say. Now, they'll criticize me for that. How dare he say that? How dare he say that? No, I'll say it. I'll say it. I'll say it. Somebody said to me the other day, you're the most famous person in the world by far. I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. They said, yes, you are. I said, no. They said, who's more famous? I said, Jesus Christ.
And as such, I would just like to point out that Donald Trump was not the first this year who likened himself unto Christ. No, I did it first. I said that I was Christ most recently, and as such, I can say that this or his action is truly pertaining and a reflection of myself, aka the preeminence of Yahweh Shai. In other words, the reason for this video is because Donald Trump made a video where he claims that he is Christ, or at least he presents himself as the savior, and it did not well with his following, and he later retracted from what he said, and he said he was just saying that he is a doctor, which I don't believe he actually meant. He's lying there. But still, that doesn't change the fact that he did the same thing which what I had done in this year when I was going to Marquette's channel and I explained to him that I present the Lamb, that I have a testimony. And as such, I would like to tell you that what would you say if I am actually the reason that the 7th of October happened? or at least a hope for that. There is a reason for it.
So you believe that you are the reason that the 7th of October happened?
Yes. And that I try to tell the people that pretty much what I see is kind of like manifesting itself. And with that, I guess I say shalom.
Countless other fundamentalist Christian Trump supporters are finally criticizing the president after he made a brazenly blasphemous post. And when I say that this post was blasphemous, it is the most blasphemous post that you can make as a supposed Christian. When I originally saw this post, even I was taken aback by it because it shows you how little Trump knows about the religion that he purports to support, because this is by far and away the biggest no-no that you can do, because Christians are taught from a very young age to be wary of an antichrist figure who would try to convince people that he's Jesus Christ by doing miracles and bringing peace to the world, and said antichrist figure would end up fooling millions of Christians around the world, which is why they have to be wary of said antichrist figure.